Messi was a no-show in Houston. MLS Match Day 2 brought us some thrills and spills, and Don Garber leaves the door open for more expansion. This and more on Monday's Morning Kickaround. Hello and welcome to the show. This is Morning Kickaround, where we cover the world's favorite game from the world's most favorite country, coming to you live each Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning. I'm Robert Kerr. He's Jason Davis. Thank you for joining us this morning. Hope you're well. Mr. Davis, what's happening?
I'm feeling good. It's Monday. There's a lot of soccer to talk about. MLS gives us so much, and we've got some things happening in Europe, and we're going to dive into some controversial topics, which I think is one of the things we do well here on Morning Kickaround.
Not quite as controversial, but equally as relevant. The poll for the naming of our rooster is live. Go to the social medias for Kickaround. Folks are furiously debating the vetted names of Peck-Shea, David Peckham, Marco Rooster, or Franz Peckenpower. So if you haven't done that already, visit the social media channels for this show at Kickaround and have your say. There's been some funny write-ins, but at a glance, Peck-Shea and Frank Peckenpower seem to be leading the way. We've got that poll set up to run until Friday, so plenty of time to get to that, and we'll chat about that at the end of the week. Before we get into more business, you've got a new shirt on. What you wearing there? You don't get to show that up on...
No. This is
new to me.
Definitely not new. Yes, it is new to you. I haven't worn this on the show yet. In fact, I barely ever wear this shirt. A listener to my old radio show sent me this one 4 or 5 years ago. It is Erie Commodores. I think they're playing MPSL these days. They might have a women's team as well. They're out of Erie, Pennsylvania, right there on the lake. And they've got a great badge. It's got a soccer ball. Yeah, they got the Telstar ball, obviously. But it also says, "Don't give up the ship." So, which, come on, who has a slogan or like a that kind of, what's another word for slogan that my brain's not delivering right now? You know, that thing. Motto, that's what it is. Thank you, Robert. That's why you're here, to help me. A motto. What other American soccer clubs have a motto on their badge? I can't think of any other ones. Somebody will have one in the chat, probably. But yeah.
Not too many. I can't think of them, but I'll rack my brain and come back to that. Just one quick thing. Does Winalda care about your jerseys when you show them off to him?
Sometimes I don't wear them. That's the radio. I'm on camera for connecting with the people I work with, but I'm not on camera for the people listening to the show. Why does it matter what I wear? I don't just rock the jerseys in my own. I'm wearing it's not as fun there. Here I get to show it off. I get to say, look at my ear. Look, Burger King sponsored the Erie Commodores. I mean, come on, that's great. This shirt's way too big. It's one of those things too.
Shout out to like the one or two guys in the Lake Erie Commodores office that was able to snag Burger King as their shirt sponsor. So kudos to them for wrangling them in. But not to get too sidetracked, if you are tuning in, thank you so much. If you haven't hit the subscribe button, please do so. We crashed through the 1,000 subscriber barrier, and we're moving on to our next goal. So be the next to subscribe and tell your people to be the next subscribers after that. Well, you already mentioned it. If you want to follow along on social media, at Kickaround on X, Instagram, Blue Sky, send in your vote for our Morning Kickaround Rooster. Send us a note. We got some nice notes to reply to in our inbox, morningkickaround@gmail.com. And we have a Ko-Fi page now. If you'd like to support, throw us a couple dollars or subscribe with a regularly sustaining donation, ko-fi.com/morningkickaround. We're going to expand that over there too. So Jason, you ready for our headlines? You ready to kick some long balls?
Let's do it.
All right. Monday mornings, long balls here on Morning Kickaround coming up. All right, these are our headlines here on Morning Kickaround, Monday, March 3rd, first show of March 2025. I'm Robert. He's Jason. Match day 2 for Major League Soccer has come and gone. Plenty of thrills and spills. On Friday, we picked out 4 of the 15 games on the match day schedule. To review, I picked Charlotte, Atlanta, Real Salt Lake versus Seattle. You picked games to watch, Philadelphia, Cincinnati, and in San Diego, St. Louis. There's some other interesting games too, but just to circle some of those. Charlotte had their home opener. It was going to be a big challenge against the retooled Atlanta United, and it seems like the Charlotte fans were treated to a Wilfried Zaha debut and a Wilfried Zaha goal.
Yeah, great day for Charlotte to see Wilfried Zaha come in and make an immediate impact. And, in the short history of Charlotte FC, they have never had a player of Wilfried Zaha's pedigree, his experience, his abilities, and so it has to be really exciting. Handicapping Major League Soccer is a fool's errand. Don't do it. Don't even bother. Don't even try. I think my post on Blue Sky, after I think we had 2 games completed, and I said, we are barely started this day, and already MLS is telling us we don't know. Bleep. Do we curse on this show? We don't know shit. We don't know shit about MLS. It doesn't. You can predict it all you want. You will probably be mostly wrong in the end. I'm not saying I had Atlanta going to Charlotte and winning, but I'm not sure I saw it exactly happening the way it did. And your games also kind of speak to that, where you might not, after the initial showing for RSL, you might not have had them beating Seattle. You had your 2 games there. Philadelphia, Cincinnati. Again, I just thought there would be interesting storylines. Didn't know Philly was going to put it on Cincy like that. A 4-1 victory for Philadelphia, who looks incredible on the Bradley Carnell so far.
Right, that might be the biggest story so far. We're like, where are the goals going to come from? And they've scored what, like 8 in 2 games?
Who thought? Did you have Baribo as your Golden Boot winner in MLS? Now, look, it's a long way to go. He might not win the Golden Boot, but the man is already pumping in goals for Philadelphia. Maybe we overlooked him as a potential star of the season. 27-year-old Israeli. I mean, again, Philly looked to be taking a step back because of some changes, because of the end of the Jim Curtin era. But so far in 2 games, their fans have to be thrilled. 5 goals. Baribo with 5 goals in 2 matches. You can't keep up that pace, but look out Suarez, Messi and company, because here's Baribo coming.
Yeah, Charlotte got the 2-0 win in their home opener over Atlanta United. Ajaman and Wilfried Zaha kind of finding a little bit of early chemistry together, perhaps. Zaha's post-game comments were interesting. It was encouraging, yet I wouldn't say he wasn't exactly a cheerleader he was like, they asked, the press asked, what did you think of the atmosphere? And he's like, it's what the lads told me. And it's like, what did you think of the performance? It's like, well, I had a bit of a go at the guys, and I'm glad we turned around and responded. So, interesting to see, like, which way is he going to go? Is he going to be, we talk a lot about how DPs have to have the right attitude to be successful in Major League Soccer. Right. And I'm going to keep my eye on Mr. Z there in Charlotte.
Yeah, looking like he's maybe stepping up and taking on that leadership role that's kind of necessary when you make the most money, right? When you are making more money than anybody else in the team, people are going to look to you. And you have the pedigree that Zaha does, people are going to look to you. And if this is something we've talked about with Lorenzo Insigne and Bernadeschi, lesser than Insigne, but both of those, have they stepped up? Are they leaders? Are they the figures, the central figures around which things move in Toronto when it's been pretty bad? And of course, you can list a number. Jordan Shaqiri in Chicago. You can list a number of players where it's kind of been like, oh, you're getting all this money, and then you don't really even show up, or you don't seem connected to it. You don't seem interested. You don't seem engaged. So far, Wilfried Zaha is engaged. That's a good step.
But one of the games that we didn't circle on Friday that actually probably turned into being one of the, we haven't dug into it. You picked this game, San Diego and St. Louis. There was a couple things there of note, not on the goal scoring sheet though, unfortunately, for the home
goals.
Opener, the first ever home game for San Diego FC.
Right, and I circled that game because San Diego had the opening day victory, right, which was okay. They showed us a little bit. Now the Galaxy gifted they gifted that win to San Diego. I think that's fair. I mean, maybe the Galaxy aren't good. I think we've got more evidence of that. The Galaxy are going to struggle to bounce back after the championship. The hangover is real.
Yeah.
The changes in their roster have really impacted them, and it's going to be tough for Greg Vanney to figure out how to make them competitive. But I circled that game because it was going to be the home debut for San Diego FC, and we get no goals. And I also point out that St. Louis has now played 180 minutes and scored no goals. No goals under Olaf Melberg so far. They got to go find some goals. No goals, and really the story of the game was things that happened in the stands, the chant that happened there in San Diego. And look, this is what I'll say about this. You don't have to do it. You don't have to do that, right? How does that improve your experience? How does that make it better for you when you're out watching your team play? And San Diego fans, you had one chance. I know this is not all San Diego fans, like not all San Diego fans. But you had one chance to make a first impression, and that's the impression you've made. The ones who took it upon themselves to do that chant have now marred the image of San Diego soccer fans, MLS fans, for everybody in the country. Right? Your coach had to come out and talk about it. That's not good, Rob. That's not good.
Yeah, they had to make it a statement on social media. They put an announcement up on the big screen at the game. So, yeah, that's like the big takeaway from their opening game. It's not about a Chucky Lozano winner. It's not about a triumphant success at home. It is about a chant. I'm curious, like, everyone is aware of, like, you're not supposed to be doing this anymore, right? Like, that's firmly established, like, that there's no mystery to this anymore, right?
Everybody knows. And there are some people, and this is a societal issue, right? I'm not going to turn this into, I'm not Stephen A. Smith. I'm not moving outside of my normal area of expertise and commenting on other stuff.
Social things, yeah.
But I will say, it seems to be that we have a lot of people right now whose idea of fun is to do stuff they know they shouldn't do. They know is wrong, right? They know it's wrong. Now, maybe the people who did it are just homophobic. That's possible. I think that's obviously wrong.
Yeah,
that's obviously horrendous, but
is it a traditional things like this is what our people have been doing at soccer games for a generation? Or is it like, I am going to take this chance to say something hateful? So
I've covered this story of this quite a bit in my career, unfortunately, right? It's come up a lot. It obviously came, there was an issue there still is, I guess, with Mexico fans doing this, right?
Yeah.
National team
crossover
fans
here with San Diego.
Yeah, Mexico national team fans doing it at Mexican national team games in the United States in particular. And I have a friend, Eric Gomez, who works for ESPN Mexico. I've had him on my radio shows and other things many, many times. And what Eric would say about this is that it seems to be something that started mainly with Mexico fans in the U.S., or it became a thing. Maybe it existed in other places. I can't say that it didn't exist in Mexico, but it really became a thing for fans going out to Mexico games in the United States. And now obviously it's trickled over and it's become this thing, right? And I don't know what the argument could be. Oh, this is what we do. This is our culture. If that's your culture is that part of your culture is wrong. I'm sorry. Whatever. I mean, we're all. I'm a multicultural person. I'm open to learning about different cultures and things. And sometimes our perspectives are slightly different, and we have to be careful. But come on, this is not good. Let's move on.
The one little caveat, I thought that was kind of funny when playing out the back got popular from goalies, and so people got a little confused if do the run up to go away, but if you just pass it short, there's not that opportunity to do so. But yeah, like you said, let's move on. Long ball number 2 for the day, peeking across to the other side of the Atlantic Ocean. Our American friends at AC Milan took another loss. Christian Pulisic did get the start in this game, back on the starting lineup. Subbed out after 70 minutes, but again, this slide from Milan, they were looking like contenders for the Champions League, but each result making that more difficult. Yeah. This time, they lose at home to a late winner from Lazio.
Yeah,
you're a competitor for those European spots.
You had a penalty that ultimately turned out to be the difference in this game. Okay, so a couple of things. Obviously, just from an American perspective, it's good to have Christian Pulisic back in the starting lineup.
Oh, yeah.
I think we all calm down. Okay. Now, look, his form is not great right now. It's not, but then again, the team is struggling, right? The entire squad is struggling. I don't know if Milan has the stomach for making another managerial change. So they fired Fonseca and installed Conceição, and there was a moment there where it looked like things were coming together under Conceição, and now it's all gone sour again. Like, I don't know if they have a stomach for another change. Obviously, that wouldn't be great for our Americans, Pulisic and Yunus Musa, of course, also at AC Milan. The game itself, though, I mean, obviously, you give up a goal, you get an equalizer, you're thinking, okay, at least we can get a point out of this. We haven't played well, but maybe we can get a point. And then the penalty. And I'm not an AC Milan fan outside of supporting the American players there. Okay, it's not important to me whether Milan succeeds, other than it's good for our Americans at Milan if they do, right? Which I guess those are kind of tied together in a way that almost does make me an AC Milan fan. How can I say I'm not a fan or I don't care about their success or failure if them succeeding is only, it's so important to whether or not Pulisic and Musa kind of get praised and get success and feel good and go into the national team confident and all those things. But you had two things happen. You had the red card, which, what are you doing? Be careful. That's a bad challenge. It's not the worst challenge we saw this weekend, but it was a bad challenge. And then the penalty. And my issue with the penalty, Rob, is we have a lot of these. The goalkeeper's coming out, right? The goalkeeper's sprawling, going down, arms up, trying to make himself big. Now, did he clatter into the attacking player? Did he foul the attacking player? Yes, I guess he does. I mean, again, this is a subjective thing. Where's the ball when that contact occurs? It's nowhere near the attacking player. He's given up control of the ball. He's pushed it so that it's about to go over the end line. It's not quite over the end line when contact is made. And man, it doesn't feel right exactly. Even though that's the law, it doesn't feel right exactly that a penalty that decides the game is given when that happens. When you're not denying okay, I don't know. Maybe he doesn't push the ball away if the goalkeeper's not coming out to make contact with him. I don't know. It's just one of those things. Like, I imagine if you're a Milan fan, you're not happy with Conceição, you're not happy with the form, you're not happy with that call, you're not happy with anything right now.
Yeah, it's all kind of crumbling a bit there. And other notable fact about Americans in this Milan-Lazio game, Yunus Musa subbed out after 37 minutes for João Felix. Not a good look for him. And when it looked like he was rounding out into some form, but clearly not over this last weekend. So worth keeping a note. And you're talking about, does Milan have a stomach to make another change? It's, as a general rule, anytime you're making, you have a third manager within one season, things are not going well. And there is not really any success to be had on a third manager in a season.
Right. And yes, right. What is the ceiling when you do something like that? Right? Like, it's so easy to kind of go, well, we have to make a change. Things are bad. When you're a club like Milan and you have ambitions and you're not meeting, they're not even coming close, right? Like, it's the death spiral. I'm going to call this a death spiral. It does feel, for this season, it feels like Milan is spiraling. And so is it stay the course, give Conceição faith, he'll figure it out, or, well, that's a sunk cost fallacy issue. If we continue to roll with Conceição, there's no guarantee it gets better. We can't just keep him because we've already fired one manager and we brought in somebody else, and your brain tells you you've got to stick with the second guy. I mean, I don't know. And if he's making decisions like pulling Musa off, and we don't have any word of an injury, right?
No.
We don't have any word of an injury. If that's a panic move, right? What manager makes a first half substitution before he's got 9 minutes before he gets to halftime, 9 and change, and his instinct is I got to get João Felix on the field, I guess. And again, how many times are we going to go back to this well with João Felix until somebody looks up and goes, you know what, it ain't working. He's not the guy.
He's not actually getting any results. Yeah. So when Conceição took over at Milan, it seemed like which level of European competition will Milan, qualify for? But now they've slipped all the way down to 9th and quite a few points out of the running there. Moving on to long ball. Oh, you got another point before we move on?
I'm going to put this in the chat. I'm going to put this out for the chat and for our listeners, and hit us up in the comments on this video. Which club would you rather be a fan of right now? If not a fan of one of these clubs already, AC Milan or Manchester United? Which club feels like a better place to be right now based on what's happening in their seasons? I'd be curious to see what we get.
Go ahead, similar places with, do they move on to yet another manager? They're both dabbling with those things. Very clever there, Jason. Long ball number 3 here on Monday morning. It was the FA Cup 5th round. Did you realize that? I think we did, and there was plenty of action. Your team. I know that you put some wagers on these sort of things in your other job. So why don't we start there? There's quite a few to chat about. Lots of FA Cup games, but Manchester United overcome by Fulham in penalties.
Yeah, that one. I will not say that it was a resplendent match of the game we call football. Like, I'm not saying it was necessarily a great watch.
You're not putting it on the wall?
No. It was, Bassi gets the goal for Fulham, and
that was
Bruno Fernandes. It was a good goal. Great reaction off the sort of ping pong situation. Bruno Fernandes with a goal for Manchester United. And it certainly feels like if anybody's going to save Manchester United these days, it's Bruno Fernandes, right? He's like the one guy that you can sort of count on to step up and do something. So
I've never seen another player's form sullied by an incoming transfer more than Bruno Fernandes, because he was becoming one of the world elite players. They bring in Cristiano Ronaldo, and he's still recovering to get back to that level of importance and status within that United squad.
Yeah, it's been a while. I mean, the whole team has collapsed, right? But he is obviously he occasionally will pop up and do something. And the problem here for Ruben Amorim is like, how important was this competition? Now he's got a balance going for this versus obviously the league, and the farther United sink in the league, and I don't know if we're really, the idea of them being sort of a relegation fodder side is a step beyond where I think they are. Like, I think they're all going to be okay in that regard. I know, but still, 14th position is not where Manchester United is supposed to be. So do you kind of focus on the league because, well, that's terrible, that's the worst United team anybody can possibly remember, or do you lean into the FA Cup because that's the one thing that United has going for them, right? They were the holders. This is what Ten Hag actually managed to accomplish, was winning an FA Cup. And
so look poison chalice, the FA Cup, if you're a United manager.
That might be true. You look at the team he rolled out there, Christian Eriksen, who's not usually first 11 these days, Højlund, Xerxes, who's been a disaster. Højlund and Xerxes on the field at the same time is probably driving United fans nuts. Again, Mazraoui gets a start. Garnacho comes in and does some things but can't finish. It was such a classic Garnacho performance in that way. Anyway, big for Fulham to win on penalties. Didn't necessarily. I'm not sure I had a lot of confidence going into the penalty kick shootout. Our guy Jedi Robinson with one of the iciest penalty kicks I've seen in a very long time. Just completely cool, calm, collected. Didn't exert himself. Just basically like, all right, Onana's going to go the wrong way, rolls it in the other side. Like, it was extremely cool what Jedi Robinson did when he scored his penalty kick. So, but coming back to this, obviously for Manchester United out of this tournament, Amorim is now going to have to deal with the fallout of this and what it means for United's season, that they can't even go after the FA Cup. They get knocked out by a Fulham side who I think hadn't beaten Manchester United in an FA Cup in more than 100 years. More than like 1904 or 1908, something like that is the last time this had happened. So, it's kind of history on that regard as much as anything else. So we got the quarterfinal draw. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say those sort of statistics of, teams having beaten Manchester United in X amount of years, I feel like comes almost on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. Nowadays
history keeps getting made, right?
Yeah, on the downslide history, because there's been so many, like, this is the first, I think it was either Crystal Palace or Bournemouth, where it was, multiple decades since they'd won there. And I think Brentford did that, was there. These teams just keep on getting results at Old Trafford, and it's astonishing the monumental placeholders and importance of United and their performances, especially at home, just toppling week after week.
Well, so I obviously we're talking FA Cup here. We just talked AC Milan. We're talking FA Cup. Manchester United's problems. I put that question in. Who would you rather be a fan of? What club looks like it has a brighter immediate future? And Scott says AC Milan because they have a better chance of fixing their problems. United's problems have been going on way too long. That does feel right to me. It is. I would say Milan, relative to their situation, has better chance of getting it together than it looks like United does right now. So United's out. Quarterfinal set, draw set. Fulham gets Crystal Palace, which is just about as the best you could have hoped for, I think, in this round. If you are, I mean, we do have what, Preston is still involved in this tournament.
Yeah, Preston.
So we do have one lower division team. So I guess Aston Villa gets the kindest draw, but they have to go away to Preston to play that. Bournemouth gets Manchester City. So ouch there for Tyler Adams and the boys. And
speaking of cool penalties, did you see the no run up penalty that the Bournemouth player made?
I did not see that one.
So the forward for Bournemouth, his name is escaping me. He puts the ball down on the penalty spot. He's waiting over it. Referee blows his whistle, and he just puts his right foot through it and taps it into the side. The goalie wasn't even ready yet.
Wasn't even ready. That's great. Yeah, be on your toes. Be on your toes. Brighton progressed as well. So Brighton took down Newcastle up at St. James's Park, which is obviously surprise. A couple of red cards in that game as well. Extra time. That game went to extra time with Welbeck getting the winner.
Nice goal.
114th minute. And that, when do we get 10v10 extra time FA Cup knockout soccer? That's
like NHL rules, right? For overtime there.
Yeah, we used to do replays, and I at one point, because of the bet I had on the radio with United Fulham, I was like, maybe I would prefer a replay. I could kick the can down the road on paying off a bet if I lose. Ended up winning, so maybe I'll be good on that. There's a game today that will be, by the time people watch this video, might have already happened. Nottingham Forest and Ipswich Town, and Forest is having this incredible season. Ipswich, wouldn't it be nice for them to make a semifinal of an FA Cup and get a trip to Wembley and all that stuff that goes with that? So that'd be fun.
Yeah, that would definitely be a highlight for. I'm sure Ipswich fans are probably in a funny position. They're back into the Premier League for the first time in a generation, but they're getting creamed just about every single week. So that's an interesting position to be in. So getting a FA Cup win would be good.
Should we mention? You brought it up to me, and I had to go watch it again, but should we mention what happened in the Palace Millwall match?
Yes, I think that's one of the biggest notes of the FA Cup round was Millwall goalie doing some very Millwall things, and then the coach. I mean, granted, the Millwall coach, what is he going to bury his player? But he acted like it was not a big deal. But Crystal Palace forward Jean-Philippe Mateta was left needing 25 stitches after suffering a severe laceration to his ear and head following a kung fu kick challenge from Millwall goalkeeper Liam Roberts.
It's not even really the stitches, which is bad, right? Yes, blood and all those things. But if you're getting clobbered like that in your head, you're dealing with a concussion. You're dealing with something, your brain's rattling around in there. And that would be what I would be concerned about for Mateta, who's had a very good season. Like, he's popped up in very important moments. He's a fun player to watch. I like him a lot, and I'm very sad that this has happened. And I do not know how you defend that challenge. I do not know. That's the goalkeepers. Goalkeepers, I understand, have to be aggressive, and goalkeepers have to do things that maybe seem a little crazy sometimes. But you can't put your opponent in that kind of jeopardy with your decisions.
For those who haven't seen it, it was a long ball, and Mateta and a defender are going up for it, and the goalkeeper comes out head high to jumping players head height. So this is like 7 feet in the air, his foot is, and it's not like a jumping punch or anything like that. He leads with like a straight up, extended leg, and it hits him right across the side of the head. It's insane, to be honest. I mean, I understand, like the Millwall coach said he was just a little bit late, But to be leading with your foot in that situation is pretty outrageous.
Right. Yeah, that's the scary thing. Like, what are you doing getting your foot up that high when there are bodies in front of you? Like, you can't. Watching Mateta's head snap back is yuck. Yuck.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Yeah, let's move on, get that bad taste out of our mouth, and you know what'll do that? Hitting the subscribe button to Morning Kickaround. We went well past the 1,000 subscriber mark. Thank you to everyone who's already done so. And if you haven't already, be the next and then tell your family and friends to do so after that. Follow us on social media at mkickaround, X, Instagram, and Blue Sky. Write us a note, Gmail, morningkickaround@gmail.com. Or if you have a couple loose dollars you want to see this show be sustainable and grow, you can throw us some money. Ko-fi.com/morningkickaround. We are going to come back in just a few seconds, and we're going to talk about Messi snubbing Houston. What? We'll be right back with today's hot topic here on Morning Kickaround. Hello, this is the Hot Topic here on Monday, March 3rd, reeling from match week 2 in Major League Soccer. One of the headlines, a team had to do some damage control. One Leo Messi did not make the trip from Miami to Houston. Miami ended up coming away with a decisive victory, but there was no GOAT in attendance.
Yeah, this has been a recurring theme in Major League Soccer since Lionel Messi arrived. When he doesn't go somewhere away from South Florida, it becomes a story. This Houston thing is the latest installment in that saga. This, what is interesting to me is that this always comes from there are reports, and then the club that Messi and company is supposed to be visiting has to respond to said reports. I believe it was Michelle Kaufman of the Miami Herald who first related that Messi would not be traveling with Inter Miami to Houston for this weekend's match. And that prompted this statement from the Houston Dynamo. The Dynamo are excited to host Inter Miami at Shell Energy Stadium on Sunday evening. The recently shared player status report for the match did not include forward Lionel Messi, but it has been reported he did not make the trip to Houston. Unfortunately, we have no control over who plays for our opponent.
I love that sentence. That's
such
what a
a
sentence.
funny thing to say. Wow. We look. Go ahead.
That should be like a banner or a title to a new segment. Unfortunately, we have no control over our plays for our opponents.
Can we get a tifo? Can we get a banner? Can some fans, can some supporters group put together a banner that says, "Unfortunately, we have no control over who plays for our opponent"? We look forward to hosting everyone tomorrow evening. This is obviously, they put this on Saturday. This is what I'm talking about. The reports a day ahead of the game. Incredible atmosphere, celebration of soccer. To show our appreciation, fans who attend tomorrow's night's match can claim a complimentary ticket to a future Dynamo match this season. Additional details will be provided early next week. Okay, so I guess good on the Dynamo for trying to make good on the problem of Messi not showing up for a game that people obviously were excited to see him in. I get for those people who are like, Messi's coming to Houston, I'm buying tickets, I'm going to the game, this is going to be great. Disappointment. I saw when Inter Miami was rolling goals in against Houston this weekend, I saw plenty of pink jerseys in the crowd. Like, they travel well. They're not traveling. They're right there in the backyard, but they're there, right? They want to see Messi play. So I guess good on Houston. It's true, though, right? They don't have any control over whether or not Messi comes to Houston or plays in the game. And I don't have a ton of sympathy for people who pay for tickets to see a player play when this is sports, right? This happens. It does. Players get injured. Now, obviously, it's made worse because there's no reports of an injury for Messi. That this is, I believe Javier Mascherano said or intimated, I don't know what language he did, that this was load management, which is, that phrase is loaded. Sorry for that part. It's a loaded phrase because it's really just saying we're resting him. Right, he's 37 years old. We've got a bunch of games. They got to go to Jamaica for CONCACAF Champions Cup. we're resting our guy. He's, we're not going to take him to Houston. And if the Dynamo were marketing this game or tickets for any section of the Dynamo season by saying Messi's coming, buy your tickets, right? If the Houston Dynamo were using Lionel Messi in their marketing materials, I don't know if have you seen anything like that, Robert? Have you seen any Houston using marketing materials with Lionel Messi? I have not. Right?
I can't say I'm scouring the Houston soccer media on a daily, but I have not seen it advertised as part of this news. I didn't see anyone, lambasting Houston for advertising, like buy one, get one free Messi tickets or something crazy like that.
It's possible that they did. Okay. I don't have any direct. I'm seeing a report that they did. I'm seeing a report that they did include Messi trying to attract a big crowd. And there's two things here. If you're the Dynamo, Robert, can you pass up the opportunity to market against Messi? To leverage Messi's potential presence? Like how, as a business, especially in a place like Houston where you're trying to stand out and get attention and we've got a crowded sports market and maybe Houston, who hadn't been good for a very long time, had sort of eroded their fan base and they got to get them back and we just want to get more fans in the building. How can you not market with Lionel Messi, right?
Yeah, you're not wrong. I think if you put a caveat, purchase tickets for the opportunity to see him, not necessarily like paint it as some sort of guarantee that he's going to be there. But I know as a soccer fan or any kind of sport, I want to see, the Pistons play against the Lakers, hoping for the fact to see LeBron play. But I'm not going to say like, because I got that ticket, 100% LeBron's going to play. And MLS might, I know NBA hasn't necessarily handled that well, but this is something that NBA has to deal with, their load management, and bad teams regularly market who's coming to town rather than their own team. Right. But they haven't necessarily handled the same way, so it's hard to say. We got a somewhat relevant comment in the chat talking about Drogba at USL when Drogba was playing for Phoenix Rising. Apparently, they would have to deal with this sort of stuff when he wouldn't travel to away games either. But I don't think, unless Houston was trying to set some sort of guarantee, I think that fans shouldn't be as naive to think as just because that team is coming 100%, he's locked into play.
Because the marketing materials included Messi, and I'm seeing that they even posted to social media a Messi tattoo that one of the Dynamo players had. Like, Messi's coming and this player has a Messi tattoo. How exciting. And then he doesn't show. That does create some level of responsibility on the Dynamo's part. Is a free ticket enough? Is that enough payment? Sort of paying back? Again, this is such a tricky thing because there's no contractual legal requirement. Although, as we're getting ready for the show, last year Messi didn't go to Vancouver, and there's a lawsuit. There was a lawsuit. Somebody was asking for his $404 back that he spent on inflated tickets for Lionel Messi's visit when Lionel Messi didn't travel. Man, that feels weird to me. Like,
it's always a possibility that someone's not going to play. Like, you could slip in the shower on the day of the game and, hurt your ankle. Anything can happen. Yes. Right. Like, there's, when you buy a ticket for an event that is not scripted, right? Yeah. That is not, like, if you were going to, I don't know, Herons on Ice, and it was Lionel Messi and Inter Miami were going to put on a show and skate around, and it was like, this is a traveling show and this is scripted, and look, he's dressed like Olaf from Frozen. That's great. Lionel Messi out there. And then, obviously if they promise you this, that, and then it doesn't come, I think you have some recourse. I think you have some claim to be made whole, but I don't know, man. This is a thing. And so again, this is a double-edged sword in American soccer. Sometimes these big names come. It makes sense for a club like Houston or Chicago or whoever to say, hey, this guy, this world famous, the best player we have ever seen is coming to play here. At least we think he is. We can't guarantee. Should their marketing materials have said, like, we think Lionel Messi's coming, buy a ticket, he might show up. The opportunity to see Leo Messi's team.
Come in, come watch maybe Lionel Messi play some soccer. We can't guarantee that, but he might be there. Should they not do that on the off chance he doesn't show? Or is that sort of dereliction of their duty just to build their fan base and get more people in the door? And obviously, look, Angus is saying it here. You arrive at the match to watch your team instead of the opponent.
There you go.
I mean, yeah, that would be great. And if we had a fully grown out, look, MLS is MLS. It's doing okay. No one's going to say it's like the greatest league or the culture is so deep that you never have to do stuff like this, right? And you just said the NBA, which is an incredible product, an incredibly successful product. There are still teams who market the visit of star players from other teams.
Mm-hmm.
We absolutely, and maybe this is an American problem we have, because what we want is to entertainment before we're talking about the passion of supporting our club. If there were 30,000 people willing to show up to every Houston Dynamo match to support the Dynamo, regardless of who the Dynamo were playing, they wouldn't need to market Lionel Messi to sell tickets. But I don't think we're there. We're clearly not. We're clearly not. It's an ideal I would like to get to. It's sort of like saying, man, it would be really great if every time the United States men's national team played Mexico on American soil, there were more U.S. men's national team fans than Mexico fans. That would be great. How do we make it happen? Except demanding people show up? Like making them buy tickets? You can't do those things.
I think that also at the same time, obviously, Messi has a deity status. He is like a one of one. But
yes.
I mean, they still were entertained by the visitors. One of probably the most underrated players of the generation still did his thing at Houston Dynamo's home venue. Luis Suarez, arguably, if he didn't bite people, he would be in the Messi Ronaldo conversation, possibly, if he didn't have the PR. If he didn't have the PR that surrounded him. I mean, he is arguably one of the best goal scorers of his generation. Doesn't often get in that conversation. Had a pretty unreal night. I think he had 3 assists and a goal in last night's game. So, yeah. I mean, they were still entertained down there in Houston for the team that was not wearing orange.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting, right? If you went out to see Messi play and were disappointed to see that he hadn't traveled, and then Miami wins the game 4-1, Segovia has rocketed out of the gates to start the new season, the 21-year-old Venezuelan.
Yeah.
He's looked great. Are you satisfied? Or are you still like, I didn't get to see Lionel Messi walk around for about 80 minutes and then maybe run a couple times and maybe score a goal? Like, how upset are you? It's a really interesting question.
Yeah, I mean, Suarez is near that status, but I don't think anyone has Suarez's visit to Houston circled on their calendar in the same way. And I'm sure people are still disappointed in the fact that they lost big, and it wasn't. But that's the thing, like either,
it wouldn't drive nearly as much interest, right? Because obviously, again, Messi is an alien; he's on a different planet. But if Lionel Messi wasn't an Inter Miami player, let's just imagine he wasn't an Inter Miami player, but Luis Suarez had still come to Miami to play. Plenty of people would be like, "Oh, I'm going to go buy a ticket so I can see Luis Suarez play." That's not a usual thing. We don't always get players like that in Major League Soccer. Luis Suarez played with Lionel Messi and was part of that team at Barcelona. And look at what he did at Liverpool and all these things. And yes, he's bitten people. And yes, he did intentionally handle the ball on the line against Ghana in a World Cup. Like, yeah, but he's Luis Suarez. Like, he's a star in his own right. So if Lionel Messi wasn't an Inter Miami player, then maybe those same people would have bought tickets, probably at less inflated. This is why there's a lawsuit in Vancouver.
Yeah.
Right? Because the issue is the ticket prices get inflated, whether it's the club jacking up the ticket prices to take advantage of Messi's visit, or it's the secondary market, which is a problem, let's be honest, jacking up the prices and people saying, oh, I've got 2 tickets to Houston Inter Miami and their face value $75 or $50 and I'm charging $300 each. Like, people are going to be upset if they buy those tickets because Messi's supposed to come and then he doesn't. But where is the recourse? Who is ultimately responsible for that disappointment?
Unfortunately, we are not in control of who plays for our opponents.
Yeah, unfortunately. Like, can I just one more time? I just want to see it one more time and put it back up. Unfortunately, we have no control over who plays for our opponent. Now, by the way, it does say the recently shared player status report for the match did not include forward Lionel Messi. What that means is the status report, it would say he's out. So when he was not included, that means it didn't indicate he was going to be out. So Houston didn't know until the report, as I mentioned, probably the first one from Michelle Kaufman of the Miami Herald, which, obviously that part of it is also kind of like, does MLS need to step in when something like this is going on and give the team, the home team in this case in Houston, as much advance warning as possible if they are because I'm sure the league is saying market Lionel Messi, that's why we have him here, to market him. He's Apple TV and all this, push Lionel Messi. And then when he doesn't travel, which is the prerogative of him to Miami, Houston has to respond. Even though they can't control, unfortunately they have no control, they still have to respond. The league maybe needs to do better with, hey, Miami, is Leo traveling? As soon as you know he's not traveling, let us know, so that we can tell Houston, and Houston can get out in front of this as much as possible, because they look bad on Saturday because of this.
Unfortunately, we cannot control who presses the subscribe button on the Morning Kickaround YouTube channel, but you can. If you haven't already done so, hit subscribe and tell your family and friends to do so. We've blasted past 1,000. That's a big landmark for us, but we are going to keep on going. So hit up Morning Kickaround at YouTube and hit the subscribe button. Follow along on social media at mkickaround, X, Instagram, and Blue Sky. Get your vote in for the name of the Morning Kickaround Rooster. Write us an email, morningkickaround@gmail.com, or support us financially if you're able to. Ko-fi.com/morningkickaround. You can do a one-time, buy us a coffee, $5, or maybe something larger or sustained. Anything helps the program. All right, we're going to take a quick break and come right back with today's big question about MLS expansion. Stay right here. Morning Kickaround here on Monday. San Diego FC had their home debut over the weekend, and Commissioner Don Garber was asked the inevitable question, does MLS expansion continue or stop right here? And unsurprisingly, the Soccer Don did not rule it out. And there's some speculation, what would be the reason to expand? Does Major League Soccer need more teams, or would they kind of want to encroach in some markets that might be in the crosshairs of USL Division 1? So on your screen, you see now the quote from Don Garber saying, "It's funny, we just hit our 30th team today, so give us a chance to take a deep breath. I do think that our country in Canada could support a couple more teams, doing a lot of work there. Never thought we'd get to 14, 16, 20 or 24, and here we are at 30. I think there are many more cities over time that could support pro soccer, men's soccer at the highest level, but let's cherish what we have here tonight," referring to San Diego. What do you make of the comments from the Soccer Don here, Jason Davis?
It takes on a different context because of the USL announcement about their intent to launch a first division, right? Because Major League Soccer gets to 30, which is a lot, right? So let's take that information. It's a lot of teams. It's by far the biggest first division in world football, right? Everybody kind of locks in on 20 is about as big as any first division should be, partly because single table and playing a balanced schedule and all those things. And Major League Soccer zoomed past 20, and now they're at 30, and it feels bloated and big, and it's really hard to follow a league that has 30 teams with 15 games every weekend. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously, we're struggling to, really, unless we spent 2 hours talking only about the weekend in Major League Soccer, we're just not going to dive in, right? There are other shows that do a great job of that. I'm glad they exist because we need them. But it makes it really hard to kind of talk about the entire league in a given weekend. And obviously with MLS growing and expanding and sort of the numbers, you get the sense that they are eating up the possibility of USL going into other cities that maybe do not have teams, or maybe some cities that already do have USL teams could be on the list for Major League Soccer, which gets uncomfortable because then we're saying, is MLS stealing from USL? And obviously it's already happened, right? There's a history of that. A lot of USL teams
San Diego. I mean,
yeah, San Diego's a perfect.
There was a San Diego Loyal USL team right there.
Right. Without San Diego FC coming in, San Diego Loyal probably still exists. Right?
Interesting. St. Louis did the same thing, and they matched up against each other last night.
And I had a conversation with a bunch of people around the St. Louis launch and the end of St. Louis SC, which was a USL team predating St. Louis City SC, and I think it was St. Louis SC, or was it FC? I'm trying to remember. But anyway, obviously that club ended. They shut down. and one of the reasons may have been that the ownership, there was some crossover between that group, the ownership group for that team, and the new team in St. Louis. But yeah, I mean, it gets uncomfortable here because lots of people would say it can't just be Major League Soccer. We need other leagues. We need and some of this revolves around how Major League Soccer operates. What they do and sort of how they do it in single entity, and certainly obviously the numbers involved, the hundreds of millions of dollars it costs to get into Major League Soccer now. For Don Garber, it makes absolutely no sense for him to shut down the idea of more growth.
No, none
right?
whatsoever.
Yeah, and I know that, again, that gets into this uncomfortable thing. Like, should Major League Soccer be expanding past 30? That's one question in sort of a traditionalist view of the game. Should MLS potentially be taking up more markets when there are other leagues and potentially a D1 for USL? That's another question. From a business perspective, it makes it's like, well, why would you shut that down and turn off potential investors if you're Major League Soccer? Again, the only argument is you just shouldn't do it because you're too big already.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't know, Rob. I mean, again, I think a lot of this comes down to how you feel about this quote comes down to how you feel about MLS. That's the bottom line. Do you like MLS or do you not?
I mean, me personally, I go back and forth. I mean, in some certain metrics, they seem like they're doing a great job, but when you talk to people on the ground and maybe people that aren't specifically supporters of specific teams and cities, I wouldn't say that the overall, general impression is amazing at all. And then, maybe, what is the eventual goal here? They get to 40 and they split into East and West of two different leagues of 20.
Or division. So we do divisions. I'm going to bring up. This is a very good example of someone, Sean, who does not clearly like MLS and wouldn't like to see the league expand past 30, and maybe thinks that, everything that's happened in recent times with expansion has all been wrong. MLS is a Ponzi scheme. They need more franchises to pay $500 million to keep the other teams afloat. Right? Look, I don't believe that to be the case, but I can't tell you. I don't have the balance sheets. I can't sit here and tell you for sure that if MLS doesn't expand, everything is good and golden. They got the Apple TV deal. I think it's $250 million. If you spread that out across 30 teams, that ain't that much money, right?
Yeah, it's not a ton.
It's not, right? And so you get into this thing about, okay, is the financial health of Major League Soccer solely dependent on expansion? And if that's the case, you eventually will hit a number where it's not feasible. But I don't know that we're close to that, right? And of course, you want to pull in FIFA, for example. You want to say, well, FIFA's got rules about these kind of things. You have to be sanctioned by FIFA, and FIFA doesn't, the 20-team league is what FIFA's
There's a whole lot of rules that they're not enforcing.
FIFA's not going to stop Major League Soccer, mostly because they can't. When I say like they're first of all, if you want FIFA to be the end all be all, like the rule maker is a little questionable to me, just because of who FIFA is and how they act. So again, giving them this sort of the moral decision maker here is FIFA is a weird place to start. But if you do that and say, well, FIFA's got rules and everybody's supposed to follow the rules, but FIFA's not applying the rules to America, right? They're not, because they can't. Because again, we come back to antitrust and antitrust law, and we come back to the issue of if FIFA comes in and says, no, MLS, you can't do this. And if you do this, where U.S. Soccer is going to pull your sanctioning, MLS goes to court. And they say, wait a second, you're restraining our ability to operate within the market. Right? This is arbitrary. This is collusion on your part. If FIFA, what rights do you have in the American market to tell us what to do? This is why U.S. Soccer can only go so far with how heavy-handed they are with directing leagues to do X, Y, and Z. Now, obviously, they've tried with PLS, and again, those guidelines are meant to do a couple of different things. Some of it is protecting MLS, I would imagine. Some of it is making sure that clubs don't come and go, which they're still doing. So I don't know if it's even working, right? We talked about this with Peter Will on this show. So, I mean, it's not a surprise at all. It's not a surprise at all. But at some point, after having witnessed so much expansion and so much growth and being at 30 and all this, it's a little exhausting to ponder the next round of MLS expansion. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong there at all. And Mike in the chat brought something up that comes to mind of 500 million. Why would you ever say we're closed for business if there are people still out there willing to pay $500 million
Right.
for a soccer team? And that brings me
Right.
back to a point. I had a conversation a couple years back about a different league with one of the DCFC owners, like how far ahead we as a club would be if we didn't have to, sort out league related things. And imagine, let's use San Diego SC or FC for a moment. Imagine how much investment and how much resources would be in the club itself had they paid, say, only 250 million to get in the league. That's another 250 million they could put in their club. I mean, just imagine how
Well,
far advanced
but
these clubs would be if they
okay.
didn't have such a fee up front.
Okay, I suppose, but I don't. That money doesn't exist unless it's in this situation, right? So okay. Again, this all comes back to whether or not MLS is a disaster for American soccer, and whether that's your opinion. Because if you're of the opinion that MLS is the wrong way for soccer to grow, that's fine. But we went through years and years and years, and no other league stepped into that breach and did the thing that MLS has done. Right. So I don't know. Does the success justify the ends of Major League Soccer justify the means of how they've operated? That's a legitimate question. But I don't think you can wish MLS out of existence and imagine it being better in a scenario where clubs can do what you're suggesting, right? Which is just sort of start. We didn't have an open system into which clubs could start and grow and get us to this point. It required, in a very American way, somebody coming up with a business plan, somebody going and registering in Delaware, an LLC called Major League Soccer, and then saying, you know what we're going to do? We're going to give certain cities clubs, and we're going to find a bunch of investors, and we're going to all be in this together, and we're going to pot our money, and this is how it's going to work. And again, if you don't like that structure, I understand. But it wasn't happening in any other way. And I don't know, you want to go back and relitigate the choice of Major League Soccer by U.S. Soccer when the plan was coming together around the 94 World Cup and FIFA was requiring a national first division league to be formed? We can do that. I think there were a couple of different plans that maybe were a little bit different than what MLS put together. The question is whether they would have survived. We can't prove that they would have. We can't prove that a different approach to growing an American soccer league would have survived because 10 years before, a league had shut down that had attempted their own way. Now, there are lots of problems with the way NASL operated, but they tried, right? And 10 years before that, when we told the story of some of those leagues on this show last week, the NPSL, the original NPSL, USA Soccer, or whatever it was called. I mean, how many times have we done that? Major League Soccer has now lasted 30 years. 30 teams is a lot, right? I sort of have a natural distaste for the size of the league as a soccer fan. But again, you can't wish MLS out of existence and say, well, it would have been better if this had happened, because that's all would haves and could haves at this point. Somebody's saying in here, Richard, the next expansion team will cost $700 million. There is a question of whether or not this is about USL. I don't think this is about USL. I don't think MLS is thinking, oh, you know what we got to do? We got to get ahead of the USL First Division. I don't think that's this at all. There are a couple of cities where if you get a billionaire on board, you can maybe put a new team. That's what this is about. I understand that this does feel like it's kind of funding the rest of the league by bringing in those expansion teams, but that's not necessarily a Ponzi scheme. That's a business based on scarcity, a business based on people wanting to be part of something like big time sports. And MLS is reaching that level where they can call themselves big time sports, and there being not enough opportunities for the people who want to invest in those things. That's where we're at.
And we shall see. We're at 30 teams in Major League Soccer. How soon will it be before number 31 is announced? We'll see.
Do we want to go just top three? Where this is just guess. I'm not trying to force out any USL clubs, by the way, before anybody comes at me and saying, "Oh, there's already a team there." Shut up, Jason. What cities do you think could be targets or could be possibilities? Now, there's always already the Indianapolis rumors,
Yep.
and the idea that maybe Vancouver would move, but that wouldn't add a team. So, but if we're just talking about pure expansion, what cities are out there, Rob?
What cities are out there? Does San Francisco encroach on any of the other California teams?
No, there is a question of that. I mean, whether or not Fisher would put his foot down and complain, and that would prevent MLS from going into San Francisco, I don't know. I don't know that that market needs another team, or could support another team because it is sort of one market. I do think so. In the chat, we've got first Richard says with the Caps for sale, probably move to Phoenix or Vegas. Again, there's Indianapolis out there as a possibility, rumor wise. I'm not saying it's happening. Phoenix, Vegas are definitely cities that people are going to bring up. Mike Thomas, Phoenix, Detroit, Tampa. So Phoenix is the biggest city that does not currently have an MLS team, I believe. Tampa is also another big market that does not have an MLS team. I know they both have USL teams, again, championship sides that are fairly successful. And then Detroit, which we've talked about. And man, people really get up in their feelings around the idea of MLS going to Detroit, especially those DCFC fans. And I get it. It would be gross to see that happen. After we did our show last week on picking USL first division cities and the idea of like who could jump into a first division when USL gets us off the ground, I had somebody send me a message and suggest that, and I think this is why you didn't include Detroit City, Rob, because their finances are not great. Like they're losing money every year. So what does that mean for their long-term future if they decide to try to go first division? That only increases all those expenses.
Yeah, and then also within that Don Garber quote was he thinks that there's some room in Canada. So what city is remaining in Canada?
I don't think there is a place in Canada. I don't think so. I think look, if you're in Montreal, Toronto, and Vancouver already, there's not another city that makes any sense size wise. If you're going to kind of, maybe he's just not. He's being very diplomatic with that statement. That might be what it is. That's the only thing I can think of. I mean, Ottawa. Somebody mentioned Ottawa in the chat. Ottawa? Ottawa. Does Ottawa have they have a Canadian Championship club, Canadian Premier League club is what I'm trying to think. Soccer. I'm talking about soccer. Yeah, I don't know. Canada does not seem like a likely destination for MLS. Not when you have Phoenix, Tampa, Detroit, Vegas, Cleveland, all sort of open in terms of MLS. Cleveland, yeah, sure. Yep. Yeah.
We shall see who will be number 31 and any suggestions for Canada. But yeah, probably just roping them in because they are part of the league. And that does it for Monday's morning kick around. It seems so. The morning's been kicked. And if you haven't been, clicking the subscribe button yet, please do so now. We crashed through the 1,000 subscriber barrier and now we're ticking our way up. Maybe our next goal, 2,500, 5,000, something like that. But we're going to keep on going. Morning Kick Around on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button. Tell your people about this show, and we'll keep on pushing forward. Follow along on social media at mkickaround, X, Instagram, and Blue Sky. We have an email address. If you want to write us a note, morningkickaround@gmail.com. Reach out. We can talk about partnerships, sponsorships, and or just a friendly note or topic ideas. Welcome to that on the Gmail. And we also have a Ko-Fi page, ko-fi.com/morningkickaround. There you can donate one time or make a regularly reoccurring donation. So thank you for those who've already done so and those who are going to do so next. All right. Until Wednesday, there's plenty of soccer to take in, and hope everyone's well. And see you Wednesday. Enjoy your soccer. Take care.